So it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nothing Phone 2 and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE and see which specific one is a better one for you. Now, between both, I definitely do think that the Nothing Phone 2 probably is the one that makes the most amount of sense. If you have unlimited money, go for it. But I'm going to be honest, the S21 FE is probably a better phone in some areas, especially in the price tag. The Nothing Phone 2 costs, I think, like a little bit, a couple $100 more expensive than the S21 FE. The S21 FE you can buy for less than $300 right now on Amazon. So it makes a little bit more sense to go and just buy that phone over the Nothing Phone 2 if I'm being honest. But regardless, both these phones will be linked down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside between both, the front of the S21 FE, we have a 6.4-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's a 1080p panel, and it's an overall pretty good looking display. It's 120Hz, you're getting the fingerprint sensor in the display, you're getting a hole punch display at that, and it's an overall really good panel. It's not perfect, but I really do think that Samsung did a really decent job with this type of device, and I think that in and of itself is a really cool thing. It's 120Hz like I mentioned, and it really couldn't have gotten, I think it was a really good display when it came down to it. On the Nothing Phone 2, on the other hand, we are getting a little bit of a bigger 6.7-inch LTPO OLED display. So this one's also 120Hz, also 1080p, and it's overall a very decent panel. This thing's not perfect though, like I said, I think it gets the job done for the most part, but I would definitely say between both, I don't know if there's one that's significantly better. I definitely do like the, S21 FE, but I definitely do like the Nothing Phone 2 as well. I don't think there's one that's significantly better than the other one. Both have USB-C ports, neither one of these have microSD card slots, and on the back, a very different styling. So with the S21 FE, we have this plastic bag. It's like a frosted plastic, I think they used to call it Glastic, very corny name. But this thing, still, it's not a bad back, especially when you consider the price tag of this thing now, but it definitely is not the best feeling back of all time, and that's just kind of what happens when you're getting a device like this. It's definitely going to be cutting some corners here and there. With the Nothing Phone 2, this thing, probably one of its biggest assets is that glass back. It's this glyph interface, the LED lights on the back thing. I think it looks really good. You're getting that dual camera setup up there too, versus the triple camera on the S21 FE. But I definitely do think that is a really cool thing going on for the Nothing Phone 2. It is definitely probably an overall more premium feeling phone than the S21 FE. And it's still a really good, looking phone too. But I would say with the FE, it is probably a little bit, I'm more used to that type of design. And I would say that between both, the Nothing Phone 2 feels better. The FE probably, has some assets for it too, but I think the Nothing Phone 2 probably wins at least on the outside. Now from the camera department, the S21 FE has that triple camera setup. A 12 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel telephoto, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, where the Nothing Phone 2 has a 50 megapixel wide, and then a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. On the front, both have 32 megapixel cameras, but we can film in 4K at 60 on the front and the back of the S21 FE, with the Nothing Phone 2, 4K at 60 on the back and 1080p at 30 on the front. This is a pretty big difference between these two. Although the outside and the body is probably the Nothing Phone 2 wins at, the S21 FE definitely wins in that camera department. The camera of the FE looks and feels amazing, and that is something that I love about my FE. If you're going to be using pretty much any Samsung phone, the camera, although on the FEs aren't going to be as great as that standard, flagship model of the time, it is still a very good camera, and that is something I love about this phone. There are tons of features built in. The Samsung cameras and their hardware themselves are amazing, but then you're also getting things like the amount of features and the pro modes and all sorts of stuff built in inside of one UI. With the Nothing Phone 2, I think this is a very good, I think this is a good camera. I don't even want to say it's a very good camera. It's a good camera, but I would not, this would not be the reason I would buy this phone. This would be a reason why I would look at maybe other devices. It's a camera and it works, but you can definitely tell that Nothing is not, putting their eggs in this one camera basket. I think they're probably relying on other things. Other than that though, the FE definitely wins inside of the camera department for sure. Now on top of that, in terms of software and longevity, there's really not going to be a phone that I could see that's going to completely outlast the other one. Because the FE is probably going to last in line with the S21, I would probably say the FE is probably going to get like one more version of Android, and that's probably it. So it's probably going to get One UI 6 on Android 14, and then it's probably going to end off there, which isn't that bad. I mean, that's pretty much what was expected. So I think that's honestly not even that bad of a thing here. But when you are getting a phone, like I said before, like a Nothing Phone 2, it's also kind of a tricky, like it's a slippery slope because, Nothing can go ahead and like promise whatever, however many software updates, but there hasn't really been that big of a history on the Nothing Phone 2 like on Samsung. Samsung has given us so many phones throughout so many years, and we already know how the software updates are probably going to go on that type of device. With the Nothing Phone, because it's a brand new company, like it came out like 2 years ago, we don't have that history to kind of check back on and be like, oh, like these phones lasted X amount of time, so this one's probably going to last that too. They can say whatever, but we really don't know for a fact. But I'd probably say that as of right now, the Nothing Phone 2 is probably going to outlast the S21 FE in terms of software updates as of right now. So things could change. Samsung could improve. Nothing Phone could go out of business. I don't know. But as of right now, that's pretty much where we are currently at as of this point. Now, in terms of performance, this was probably the bigger difference, which I was surprised at. The S21 FE has that Snapdragon 888 chipset inside with 6 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 8 gigs of RAM. With the Nothing Phone 2, we have basically the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but again, it goes up to 12. And I would say in terms of the performance, the S21 FE's performance was actually not bad. I think it was pretty good when it first came out, and I still think that 888 chipset is a very good chipset to have. I think the 6 gigs of RAM kind of throws me off. I was expecting them to do a little bit more than that, but I still think it's totally fine. And like I said, that chipset for, random things you're going to do on your phone, it's going to be fine. That 120 Hz to kind of wrap the whole entire display looks really good too whenever you're flying through this phone. And I think it's a very solid device from that perspective. I definitely do think though too, with the Nothing Phone 2, this is a tremendous performing phone. I've had a great time with the Nothing Phone 2, and that in and of itself is a very good thing to keep in mind here. I definitely do think that with something like a, Nothing Phone 2, this is a better performing phone pretty much in every single area. I have seen so many phones come and go, and with a device like the Phone 2, this is a really good performing phone. And pretty much has the flagship chipset of last year, which is honestly very surprising. So you may have not even known this, but having a device like that at that moment is very, very cool. And I definitely do think that in and of itself is a really cool thing going for this device. So what I will definitely tell you, even in the battery life department, I think the Nothing Phone 2 wins there too, which is another pretty big asset. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I'll definitely tell you is the Nothing Phone 2 gets a thumbs up for me for a fact. This is a this is a pretty good phone. It's definitely not perfect, but I think it's definitely the better phone here, mostly because of the software updates. But I will say, with the S21 FE, if you're wanting to get a phone that's probably going to last like another 2 years, I think the FE is probably a really good choice to go to. I think this device is pretty much perfect, except for maybe it not getting the longest software support. Other than that, I think this is a very good phone, and I would 100% recommend buying it as well. It's not perfect like I mentioned, but I definitely do think that Samsung did a really good job on that device, and every time I look at it, every time I do anything with it, it really does get kind of a thumbs up from me. I will say though, with the Nothing Phone 2, very solid phone. I think it is probably the better one, but I would say from the price tag standpoint, the S21 FE is probably the better one from that, price tag standpoint. I think that's the device I look at and I'm like, oh, this is actually a really good, phone for the price. It's less than $300. And if you still need a phone that's less than $300, that's going to still kind of be supported with software. This is a pretty decent option at that point. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.